pop music has gotten pretty surprisingly commodified. I'm pretty stunned. I thought for a moment that we were on a, you know, when Bjork got really popular and stuff like that, I was like, oh, things are going to get really weird for a minute. And no, they're not. They're not going to get weird at all. It's kind of like the 50s. It's like I'm trying to make something that when I'm old and dying, I'm like, yeah, I'm not filled with regret. I kind of did the right thing, and kind of believe to a certain degree that I'm not so singular that if I make things that I'm proud of, other people will like them too, to a certain degree. Like, I'm not so unusual that no one else will gravitate towards what I like. You know? When I think about bands that I hate now, and when I was a kid, like bands that I liked that sucked, but they got me into other bands, like Echo and the Bunnymen. I was like really into Echo and the Bunnymen at one point. You know, I really like that band. And like, it's not a good band, really. It's all right. It's kind of nice and retro, like it reminds you, oh, I remember the 80s. But like, it's really, it's not particularly good. But you know, through stuff like that, I find stuff like The Fall and things that are really interesting and rewarding. So part of what I loved about music was the mythology, the incorrect information that you had, and the work it took to look for things, you know. There was something nice about looking for things. There's something nice about being 36 and a music professional and still finding records that I should have already known historically, that I think will slowly be removed. You know, that I'm still discovering music that I think is amazing. And I love the internet for finding things, but it's not quite the same as like just finding a record that has a cool cover and that being what draws you to it, and you buy it and it's horrible, and the next one you do that too is amazing. What's going to be missing is like the unconscious peer pressure that guides people into different forms of taste. And what's going to be replaced by is lifestyle marketing and taste engines, which scares the crap out of me. As much as I hate like proto-fascist punk rock peer pressure, I fear lifestyle marketing and taste, you know, demographic generation engines. That kind of freaks me out. Will they ever have the kind of specific influence that record clerks and local DJs did? Like, that's the thing I think is like, I don't see where that comes from. Like, I get it. Like, people can be led to different music through these like kind of like taste engines. But the taste engine isn't a qualitative judgment. It's sort of a theme judgment. And some of the best records I found weren't because like some dude's like, dude, you like Dinosaur Jr.? You'll love Sebadoh. It was like more like just a guy behind a counter that's like playing Terry Riley in the background, and you not having ever heard anything as crazy as that and needing to buy it, even though you most listen to New Romantics. I think that, like, I wonder if that's going to have the same, like, people didn't go to record stores necessarily to get made fun of or turned on to new music. You know, they went to get, you know, they wandered in to get the record that they were specifically looking for. Sometimes they'd go into browse, I did, but like a lot of people did. But by entering those environments, you found different things. I guess it's not that dissimilar. It's just that like the little email that comes to you and says, I heard you bought this, you might like this, have as much bitter attitude as a record store clerk. If they can engender the email blurb a little like with enough superior defeatist attitude, then I think we've got something. I think it'd be great if that's what it was, if it wasn't a logarithm. Like, it wasn't a series of logo and algorithms, it was simply a dude. It's like, but that's basically what it is. It's like you hired people to make that decision, and then you start making computers that are smart enough to like start thinking like a person. You have the computer make the decision until it's smart enough to be another person that you hire. I guess, what's the difference? Yeah. It's like computers are kind of complicated and complex enough that they can almost make decisions like a person. So we're going to have them make the decisions. And one day they'll be as smart as we are.
I want to know if all these liberating tools allow artists to make better work.
No. The interesting thing, any more than like computer graphics finally made visual art better. Like Photoshop has finally gotten us out of the old Ansel Adams garbage that we were stuck in beforehand, or Illustrator. Now we're not limited the way that the Dutch masters were. You know, we don't have to deal with those crushing creative paralysis that Picasso suffered, you know, that Magritte suffered. We instead are liberated the way that me and all my friends, you know, like how much freedom aesthetically we all feel. Nobody feels any extra freedom aesthetically through computer tools. If anything, it's like, you know, we've already, a certain thing has already snapped. The second you had atonal music, like something snapped. The second you had abstract expressionism, something snapped. And that was like pushing the boundaries of what was beautiful. Somebody decided to break that. And then after that we have like, it's sort of like a wave. Everything kind of pierced into, you know, abstract expressionism and musique concrète, and then burst through the other side. And then you got swirling pop art and punk rock. You know, you got all these things that are like these very strange referential self-conscious incursions. The last weird moment was that when rock boiled out of that, it was such an archaic art form in a weird way that it was like Byron. I mean, it was like sort of like romantic. It was like people were able to step back in hippie terms, and because they were completely ignorant of abstract expressionism and musique concrète, they could think the MC5 was, you know, sonically revelatory, which, you know, it's awesome and I love it, but it's like, you know, Rites of Spring, sonically revelatory for its time, people tearing up the theater and setting fire. Rock, it was more of like a lifestyle marketing before there were corporations getting together and going like, so do you think Bob Plant's rebellious looking enough? Do you know what I mean? It was just sort of like companies weren't savvy enough to communicate with kids the way that they are now. So bands and stuff could figure that stuff out and communicate unconsciously to kids in a kind of an amazing way. Like there was a throwback in time, but you know, I wonder how that's going to function in the kind of future meta economy when, you know, the fact that you can make money on information is all that America needs to know. You know, man, if we could make money on soccer, we'd be so good. Give it time. We're good at stuff and we can make money at it, you know? It's like coffee. Couldn't have a good cup of coffee in this country for 150 years, and then suddenly dawned on somebody you can make money at it, and you can't swing a dead cat without finding a good espresso machine. We've got one upstairs, by the way. We should show you. You can come upstairs. Yes! Miami. A little something. And I used this. It's a little something. I use this to bash open something on tour. So there's one of these that is if it is still in this room, it is in very shattered pieces. Trying to knock something, I had nothing to do this with on tour, so I think I was holding it like this and trying to knock a clasp open that was broken because we couldn't get into a case for our gear before a show.
Did it work?
It did.
Nice.
But it chipped chunks of a little something. It was little somethings of a little something.